It's clear that Ohio is in a period of transformation. When you think about these efforts, we've transformed many things here in the state of Ohio. We could start with a budget where we've eliminated a structural deficit, something that frankly had been ignored for a very long time and weakened our state and put us on the edge of credit downgrades and big holes, big deficits, in unpredictability and political chaos. And so we have transformed that process. We've transformed the process of economic development, doing something that I'm not sure people had ever thought of, which was to create Jobs Ohio, the not-for-profit entity that is filled with people who are able to move at the speed of business rather than the speed of the statute. We have transformed infrastructure in this state. I mean, we can talk about the infrastructure and jobs plan in regard to the turnpike, but when you think about public-private partnerships, which had never been in play in this state before, and now the plans that we have to privatize rest areas on state highways and a request for a waiver to be able to even do this on federal highways clearly involves a transformation. I think we've transformed higher ed with a capital bill that has put us in a position of being able to get the big boys and girls to share resources with our smaller colleges, including places like Zane State, Stark State, and of course, most recently with a historic effort to reimburse graduation rather than enrollment, where we will lead the country. We have also been involved in transforming K through 12. In K through 12, starting with Teach for America, vouchers, teacher evaluation, not as a means to punish, but as a means to assess. The Cleveland School Plan, which is now beginning to become contagious with the city of Columbus and Cincinnati now beginning to talk about this, and I would hope at some point Youngstown. And in addition to that, the A through F grade card, which in my judgment is going to save a lot of kids from dropping out of school. And of course the A through F, all of which we'll discuss in greater detail here in a few minutes. It is a transformation, in my judgment, of K through 12. We've transformed criminal justice with sentencing reform, with the issue of eliminating this whole business of collateral sanctions, or at least getting a pathway towards being able to restore people to a position of where they could have another chance. We've transformed our whole Medicaid program by creating an Office of Health Transformation. A report just came out yesterday that Greg may talk about that shows many states that are drowning in red ink in their Medicaid program, while we've been able to be reform-minded, been able to reduce the cost without having to take people off the rolls or cut benefits. I think truly a transformation, along with the recently granted a dual waiver program, one of only 3 states in America that now have a dual waiver, which allows us to better coordinate care. We've transformed regulations in many ways, and Mary will talk about that just in a few minutes. And transforming regulations doesn't just mean that we've repealed regulations, but we have actually written regulations that affect the oil and gas and fracking industry. They're the toughest and clearest regulations in the country, and will allow this industry to move forward. We have been transformational in terms of our tax code. Yesterday, just announcing the reduction in or the rebate of dollars to companies that have for years overpaid but never were told that there was any refund coming their way, and well, a whole host of things there. If I could get a little bit more specific and try to get through this as quickly as we can. You might recall we had the MDR, and I know that was frustrating for many of you. I know in some ways the whole process has been frustrating because there's so many things moving that at times for a reporter it's been somewhat difficult to report, and I understand that. But when you're in the middle of transformation, you cannot slow down. You get as much ground as you can, and frankly, we have a lot more transformation to do in the state. But we also, of course, as we're transforming, we're in the process of implementing. It is important not just that we get the overall policy right, but that we work on a regular basis to make sure that we can carry it out in an effective way. We all know about job growth. You've heard me talk about this over and over again, 127,000 jobs. But let me just tell you that I think we're beginning to hit our stride on the concept that Jobs Ohio put together, including, of course, my friend Mark Wami, which was to get into a position of where we were not just a one-trick pony, where we could have a situation where we could attract businesses in 8 or 9 different clusters, where we could have diversity. And let me just cover a few of them. IBM, we scored a major win on data analytics with IBM creating 500 jobs here. It will be more. It will be 1,000 before it's open. It will be their only analytics operation in the world. S-Mark Steel. This was a very big deal because it's breathed a little life into southeastern Ohio. There's a case where Scott Nally was able to wrest the control of the land in S-Mark from the hands of the federal EPA, yet be able to clean up that site and move us in a position of where we could open up a steel company where people had basically given up hope. And we also think there are other announcements coming in that area sooner. And I'm very proud of that one because that was a place where people had fundamentally begun to give up. Halliburton in Zanesville was another big announcement to get a company like Halliburton in. But there is also an industry that's related to advanced materials that's beginning to grow over in the area of Zanesville and that whole area. Abbott Labs was a very big win for us. Many of you didn't get to that press conference, but Abbott Labs' most significant investment in the U.S. occurred in southwestern Ohio. They were on the verge of going to Indiana. We were able to present a compelling case through the good work of Jobs Ohio, nimble, quick, and effective. dunnhumby, which is a consumer data analytics in Cincinnati. Another significant development, 550 jobs down in Cincinnati. Lincoln Electric, advanced manufacturing up in the area of Cleveland. Lincoln Electric, a phenomenal company in the area of advanced manufacturing. Alexander Mann, which we tracked it from Ireland. I spent, I don't know how long on the phone with a lady that runs Alexander Mann. They are HR services, and they're in Cleveland. So just taking a quick snapshot of some of those companies really allows us to see the diversity and the transformation of the way in which we had done economic development in our state. The attracting of the energy investments, of course, were very strong, but again, I want to underscore the fact that we did not do it by some sort of a sop to industry. We have, and as I argued to President Obama, didn't argue, but explained to President Obama, we have the toughest rules that involve the fracking industry in America, with good regulations on high-pressure pipelines, on gathering lines, and of course on disclosure of fracking fluids, something that even folks in Colorado didn't get right. And a lot of credit, of course, goes to Tom Niehaus on that. The financial institutions tax, do not miss this one. This is an effort to make sure that the largest institutions, financial institutions in our state, pay their fair share, while at the same time being able to reduce the burden on community and smaller banks. This is a big deal. We'll have a big announcement on this later, well, the beginning of the year. This is something that gives a real breath of air to our smaller institutions, which are so important to our smaller communities. You all were there for, not all of you, but some of you were there for ORNET, which is the fastest infrastructure involving electrons in our country, tied with the Department of Energy, and it probably could be argued is faster than anything in the world. Is that correct? As fast as anything in the entire world, and can be used as a great attractor of jobs. I talked to John Chambers with Cisco Systems yesterday, and he said, I'm not sure that you will all even understand the potential of ORNET. We were able to build it out and, of course, include Southern Ohio. I've talked about the area of education. I have to tell you that to me, this is about saving children's futures. A through F and the implications of A through F, including the ability of students to get dual enrollment, to be able to get credit in a variety of ways, not just in high school, but also credit at the higher ed level, at the community college level, is really significant, and giving parents an ability to be able to understand how their schools are doing so they can become more engaged and schools can become more competitive. The third grade reading guarantee is, I read an article that says some kids can't tell the difference between the front of a book and the back of the book. And the third grade reading guarantee is not a gotcha. It is not designed to spring something on somebody in the third grade, but it is designed starting, in fact, in early childhood education, kindergarten, the first and the second and third grade, to intervene and give kids the help they need to be able to pass to the fourth grade. And if they can't pass to the fourth grade in reading, it doesn't mean they can't pass to the fourth grade and everything else. It's going to hold them back. But we want to make sure that they can read at that third grade level before we give them more complicated material to read. The teacher evaluation follow-up is coming. We worked with teachers across the state and came up with a process that we think is very fair. The Cleveland plan speaks for itself. Teach for America, which I announced at the first State of the State, of course, is now fully implemented and in operation in our state. And I've mentioned higher ed on workforce. We constantly work on workforce with the creation of the Governor's Workforce Board made up of business people, all designed to get us into a position of where we can train people for the jobs that exist. And this is going to be an ongoing effort, sort of like trying to solve the problem of world hunger, trying to solve the problem of a educated and technically competent workforce is something that's going to require continued work, but it can be a major, major breakthrough for our state, and we will not give up on that. Helping the poor is something that we're proud of. I've mentioned to you the Medicaid reforms, Employment First, where we've been able to take disabled folks and guide them to alternatives other than the sheltered workshop, if able, where they can realize their hopes and their dreams. We held the Rehabilitation Service Commission first Ohio Disability Job Summit, bringing employers in to let them know that people who have these disabilities are fully capable of working and being highly productive. The backpack program, where my wife was very involved in that and making sure that kids could take food home in a way in which they didn't feel embarrassed or estranged, putting the food in backpacks so they had something to eat over the weekend. So they went back to school on Monday. They wouldn't show up with nothing to eat and in a position where they were really unable to learn. The Moms to Be program, which is a program here in Columbus, which addresses high infant mortality rates and provides expectant mothers with basic services and material needs from nutrition to mental health. A very big and exciting program. I'd encourage you all to see it. And many other programs. Let me see. Of course, the whole process of reaching out to the food pantries across the state, and we'll have more to say about that soon. And of course, the After School All-Stars program, which has been a big hit. My wife intimately involved in that one. In the area of criminal justice and collateral sanctions, fighting human trafficking, which is, you all learned a lot about that yesterday at the residence, fighting drug trafficking with the shutting down of pill mills, and the ability to have the highway patrol a lot more oriented towards winning this battle. Reducing the size of government. We have reduced the size of state government by 7.5%, but we think we've been more effective and more efficient. Also employing the ability of lean manufacturing. Six Sigma has operated inside the state. $21 million has been saved through one investment on the Six Sigma. We're just getting that going. And a lot of other agency highlights. I don't want to just carry on. And even though